Hello students, welcome to my class. This is Dr. Ranjini, Assistant Professor in Biotechnology, Maharani Science College for Women, Mysore. Today I'm talking on microbial production of vitamins. Vitamins. All phototropic microorganisms are capable of synthesizing vitamins. Vitamins are primary metabolites produced by the microorganism, very necessary for their normal growth and development. Apart from the vitamins, microorganism also produces other growth stimulating compounds for their vegetative growth using chemical constituents from the culture medium. So these microorganisms synthesizes the vitamins and other growth stimulating compounds for their normal vegetative growth. When the synthesis exceeds beyond their requirement, it accumulates in culture. From there, the vitamins or the other growth promoting substances will be recovered. Nowadays, the commercial exploitation of such microorganisms producing producing a large amount of vitamins are exploited, or they will be utilized for the large scale production of these vitamins. For example, vitamin C producing microorganism, vitamin B12 producing microorganism, or vitamin A producing microorganism, and riboflavin producing microorganism. So beyond their requirement, when it is produced in the microorganism, it will be accumulated in the culture or will be accumulated in the spent. So for that, for the large scale production, these microorganisms will be utilized. First we'll take up vitamin B12. It is also called as cyanocobalamin. So this vitamin B12 will be rich in the fruits like papaya and then melons. Almonds will be rich in vitamin B12. And if you consider animal-based products, it is rich in fish, meat, and eggs will be rich in vitamin B12. Apart from that, these microorganisms also has the capacity to synthesize vitamin B12. For industrial production of vitamin B12, large number of bacteria and streptomycetes will be used. The amount of vitamin B12 produced by them has been estimated about, so per liter they can produce 20 milligram of vitamin B12, and these will be used as food supplement, and it is very essential for human growth, for the normal growth of the nerve cells. Daily requirement of vitamin B12 is about 0.001 milligram. Every day we should consume at least 0.001 milligram. In human body, vitamin B12 play a very important role. It is involved in DNA synthesis, and it is also involved in energy generation during physical activity. So whenever we are involved in physical activity, energy generation require vitamin B12. It is very important in maintaining the stability of the cell membrane, covers the nerve cell, and it also acts as the messenger molecule in the nerve cells like hormones and neurotransmitter. And in addition, it detoxify the cells or the nerve cells, or it will remove certain toxic the molecules which are produced during the metabolism. This includes nitric oxide or other chemicals. Vitamin B12 deficiency causes depression, fatigue, and irreversible neurological issues. So every day we should consume at least 0.001 milligram of vitamin B12 is important. Suppose if you don't consume it every day, it results in deficiency. That includes implications will be like depression, fatigue, hypothyroidism, and irreversible neurological issues. The chemical structure of vitamin B12, it is having the cobinamide portion. It is having cobinamide portion. It is attached to the nucleotide which has 5,6 dimethyl benzimidazole as the base instead of purine and pyrimidine. It is having 5,6 dimethyl benzimidazole which will be attached to cobinamide. So this is having two portions. One is nucleotide portion and another one is cobinamide portion. When you take the cobinamide portion, it is attached to, or it is having central cobalt atom attached to the cyanide, and at the four corner it is having the pyrrole rings. So these pyrrole rings will be attached to the cobalt which is linked to the cyanide and results in the formation of the macro ring. And the remaining carbon atoms may be attached to the methyl group or other substrates. So this is the structure of the cyanocobalamin, which is very essential for the normal nerve cell structure and function. Commercial production of vitamin B12. It is produced in a continuous culture. Vitamin B12 is a primary metabolite produced during the growth phase, and this production will be increased for the large scale production to maintain the continuous production of the vitamin B12. It will be cultured in open culture either in chemostat or in the turbidostat, that is continuous culture. Here two fermenters are used, and these two fermenters are incubated or will be the fermented for about 60 hours each, minimum 60 hours each. It may be more than that also. So here you have the continuous culture and you are using two fermenters, and here precaution will be taken that first fermenter will ferment anaerobically to synthesize cobinamide portion, while the second fermenter will be maintained in aerobic condition. In the second fermenter, in the aerobic condition, 5,6-dimethyl benzimidazole is added continuously. 5,6-dimethyl benzimidazole is added continuously to produce the nucleotide. So it's a continuous culture. Two fermenters are used, and each fermenter will be incubated, or it will be fermented for about 60 hours, minimum 60 hours. First fermenter is anaerobic, second fermenter is aerobic. In the first fermenter, there is synthesis of the cobinamide, and in the second fermenter, there will be the attachment or the synthesis of the nucleotide takes place. To produce the vitamin B12, media will be prepared containing glucose, corn steep, betaine and cobalt. pH will be maintained at around 7.5. Sterilize the media and you inoculate the fermenter, first fermenter, with Propionibacterium frudenrici. Which microorganism? Propionibacterium frudenrici will be inoculated to the first fermenter, which is maintained in anaerobic condition for about 70 hours. During this period, cobinamide is produced and it accumulates in broth. After that, we are maintaining the aerobic condition and we are adding 5,6-dimethyl benzimidazole. And continuously it is added and it will be maintained for about 50 hours. Aerobic condition will be maintained for about 50 hours. During aerobic fermentation, nucleotide is synthesized and it is linked to cobinamide molecule to yield 20 ppm of cobalamin. Cobalamin is not vitamin B12. You have the cobinamide molecule attached to nucleotide. So that is cobalamin. Now the cells or the the culture pH will be reduced to acidic condition of about 2 to 3, and the fermenter or the culture will be heated to 100 degree centigrade to kill the cells. After that, remove the cell debris. Whatever the filtrate you have, to that you add potassium cyanide. We saw in the structure cobalt is attached to cyanide. You add potassium cyanide around 5 parts per million to the filtrate to get cyanocobalamin. Cyanocobalamin. To avoid the oxidation, you add sodium sulfite to the cyanocobalamin solution. This prevents the oxidation of cyanocobalamin. So you have the continuous culture, two fermenters. First is anaerobic, second one is aerobic. Each will be fermented for about minimum 60 hours. And in the first fermenter, cobinamide is synthesized. In the second fermenter, nucleotide is synthesized. You incorporate the potassium cyanide, you'll get the cyanocobalamin. To avoid or to maintain the stable nature of the cyanocobalamin, incorporate sodium sulfite. So this cyanocobalamin will be stable for longer duration. Now, by genetic engineering techniques, we can produce the mutant microorganism where they produce more vitamins than the natural parental strain. So, mutant microorganism will be prepared which produces more vitamin compared to wild strain. Example, Paracoccus d nitrificans is able to produce 50,000 more times more vitamin B12 than the wild strain or the parental strain. So that is the advantage of recombinant DNA technology, where you can increase the yield of the particular metabolite. So that is regarding vitamin B12. Now we'll take up L-ascorbic acid. It is known as vitamin C. We all know about vitamin C. It is commonly used. L-ascorbic acid is the chemical name for the vitamin C, and it is a water-soluble vitamin. This play an important role. This forms a mini redox system. Redox pairs will be formed during the metabolic reaction or in the electron carrier reaction, and it is involved in reduction and oxidation reaction, and it participates in many biological processes. It is intimately involved in biosynthesis of collagen. So the collagen synthesis requires vitamin C. So this collagen is the abundant protein present in the human body. So to synthesize this abundant protein, we require more of vitamin C. Vitamin C also acts as antioxidant molecule, protects the body against carcinogenic nitrosamines and free radicals. They are produced during the metabolic reactions. So vitamin C deficiency causes the scurvy. Vitamin C is involved in, or it is participating in many reactions. It is very, very important. The deficiency causes the scurvy. Scurvy is nothing but the swelling of your gums and bleeding of the gums, and then the bone growth will be affected by the vitamin C. Because of the wide range of physiological and beneficial functions of L-ascorbic acid, its commercial production is gaining more importance. That is, it is assuming more significance for the commercial production. Vitamin C is mainly used in food and pharmaceutical industry. This L-ascorbic acid will be produced by different method. The one famous method is Rikstein-Grüssner synthesis. This Rikstein-Grüssner synthesis synthesizes about 100 gram of L-ascorbic acid will be produced from 200 gram of glucose. So almost 50% of the glucose will be converted into L-ascorbic acid. This Rikstein-Grasner synthesis involves many chemical reactions having one microbial biotransformation. One microbial biotransformation. It's a combination of microbial biotransformation with the chemical transformation. This is referred as Rikstein-Grasner synthesis. Here, D-glucose will be converted into D-sorbitol by chemical reaction, catalytic reduction. Later, D-sorbitol will be converted into L-sorbose by sorbitol dehydrogenase secreted by Acetobacter xylinum and Acetobacter suboxydans. So these microorganisms secrete or express this enzyme that will convert this D-sorbitol into L-sorbose. Further, by two or more chemical transformation, the L-sorbose will be converted into ascorbic acid. So L-sorbose, first it will form 2-keto-L-gluconic acid, and then it will be converted into enol form of the 2-keto-L-gluconic acid. Later by acid treatment, it will be converted into ascorbic acid. Here when you are culturing the Acetobacter xylinum, we are using submerged bioreactor. It will be grown for about 24 hours at 30 to 35 degree centigrade. This is Rikstein-Grasner synthesis. It's combination of chemical reaction and the microbial biotransformation. The another method is two-step fermentation process. Here we are using two important microorganisms to convert D-glucose into 2-keto-L-gluconic acid. Later, this will be converted into L-ascorbic acid. So, the conversion of D-glucose to 2-keto-L-gluconic acid involves two microorganisms and two fermentation processes. Hence, it is called as two-step fermentation process. Initially, D-glucose will be converted into 2,5-diketo-gluconic acid by the microorganism Erwinia species Acetobacter and Gluconobacter. But these microorganism fails to express 2,5-diketo-gluconic acid reductase. Hence, they cannot further convert this 2,5-diketo-gluconic acid into 2-keto-L-gluconic acid. It's a very important intermediate to form the L-ascorbic acid. So, the other microorganism, Corynebacterium species, has the capacity of expressing 2,5-diketo-gluconic acid reductase. So, this will be inoculated to the fermenter, and now this will convert 2,5-diketo-gluconic acid into 2-keto-L-gluconic acid. Later, this will be transformed to L-ascorbic acid. Since there are two fermentation reactions, it is called two-step fermentation process. So this is regarding two fermentation process. But in Rikstein-Grasner synthesis, we saw D-sorbitol will be converted into L-sorbose, and that is by microbial transformation. So this L-sorbose can be utilized by other microorganism, Bacillus megaterium, and this can synthesize the important intermediate, that is 2-keto-L-gluconic acid. So that is an important intermediate. Later it will be transformed into L-ascorbic acid. Another step is the L-ascorbic acid can also be produced via gulonolactone. D-glucose will be converted into L-gulonolactone through glucouronic acid and then glucouronolactone. and later L-gulonolactone dehydrogenase converts L-gulonolactone into ascorbic acid. So this is a different branch or the different process where different intermediates will be synthesized, like L-gulonolactone that will be converted into L-ascorbic acid. Here the important enzyme is L-gulonolactone dehydrogenase. Next is direct production of L-ascorbic acid. Direct production of L-ascorbic acid. Many workers or the several scientists are trying to produce their L-ascorbic acid directly from the glucose. So these scientists, they are trying to produce L-ascorbic acid directly from the glucose by growing microalgae chlorella. When chlorella is grown in the media containing glucose, it can convert glucose into L-ascorbic acid. But the main disadvantage is yield is very low. Yield is very low. Next is genetic engineering for L-ascorbic acid production. Biotechnologists have been successful in cloning and expressing the gene for 2,5-diketogluconic acid reductase. So this enzyme we saw in two-step fermentation process where it will convert the 2,5-diketogluconic acid into 2-keto-L-gluconic acid. So this enzyme has been cloned and expressed in the Erwinia herbicola. So this recombinant Erwinia herbicola can convert the glucose directly into 2-keto-L-gluconic acid. So this is certainly advantageous since metabolic capabilities of two different microorganisms could be combined in a single recombinant Erwinia herbicola. So there we saw Erwinia species, Acetobacter species and Gluconobacter species failed to express 2,5-diketogluconic acid reductase. But here by recombinant DNA technology, we are making this Erwinia herbicola, which is expressing this acid reductase enzyme, can consume glucose and convert that into 2-keto-L-gluconic acid. Now this will be converted into ascorbic acid. But again, the disadvantage is the yield is very low. For that, scientists what they are trying is they are altering certain amino acids in reductase enzyme 2,5-diketogluconic acid reductase to increase the catalytic activity of the enzyme. When the catalytic activity of the enzyme is increased, more of 2-keto-gluconic acid will be produced and hence more of ascorbic acid will be produced. So to increase the catalytic activity, they are altering certain amino acids. So this is a picture depicting the vitamin B12 rich foods: fish, crab, cheese, chicken, eggs, meat, milk, almonds are rich in vitamin B12. To consume every day around 0.001 milligram vitamin B12 to have good structure and function of the nerve cell. The deficiency results in infertility, hypothyroidism, depression, cognitive decline, low energy, and then numbness and other irreversible neurological implications. So that is regarding vitamin B12. Coming to vitamin C, we all know vitamin C fruits, citrus fruits are rich in vitamin C, tomato, banana, then kiwi fruit, lemon, broccoli, capsicum are rich in vitamin C. So deficiency of the vitamin C causes scurvy and swelling of the gums and bleeding of the gums will be resulted. Apart from that, it is a very good antioxidant molecule, removes many toxic molecules which are produced during the metabolic reaction. I hope you understood. Thank you.